Hello, how are you? Hope you're doing fine. Basically, today I want to talk about speaking poetry. Most people have the problem in speaking poetry, but I've seen a lot of people facing a lot of problems with poetry. So you have to be very efficient while answering poetry questions if you want to get a very good score in speaking. You know that very few people usually get very high score in speaking. I mean, getting 6 to 6.5 kind of easy, but if you want to get higher score, you will have to give a better answer. So, especially you want to talk about poetry. So, how can we give a good answer in poetry? What should we do? That's my question, right? So, remember the technique that I'm going to follow. I'm going to tell you now. If you follow this technique, I suppose you can get a good score in poetry, right? So, what are the technique? What is the technique that I'm going to share with you now? The technique is that whenever you face a question in poetry, you should think about answering in four parts. I mean, answer should have four parts. So, what are those? If you get a question in poetry, first of all, what you should do is that you should answer the question directly. I mean, give the answer directly. Don't give an introduction or anything. Don't waste your time, because examiners usually do not like this at all in any way. So, give the answer directly. The first thing, and after you do that, what you should ask the question why. Why have you given this answer? So explain why. That's part two, right? So what is part one? Part one is that you should answer the question directly. Part two is explain why. Why have you given this answer? Explain that, and keep asking the question why. You can add another one or two sentences by asking the question why. So afterwards, try to give an example. Whatever is the question, give an example. You can give an example. If you give an example, your answer will be expanded, and you can examiner will understand that you have better flexibility when you answer something. And another thing that you should add is give an alternative answer. Give, for example, say something opposite, right? I mean, remember, give an alternative idea, right? So the fourth thing that I'm trying to share with you. First, as I told you, that give the answer directly. That's the first part. Part one. First, do that. And secondly, as I told you, what you have to do, you should explain why. And keep asking the question why. Why you were answering this? Why? Give example, for example, and explain the alternative. Right. So these are the four parts that you can follow, that you can use while answering any poetry questions in our speaking test. Right. Okay, now let me give an example of that. Okay. For example, if examiner asks you a question like, do you think newspapers are important? Say this is the question, right? Okay, let me repeat the question. Do you think newspapers are important? Now, if we want to answer this question, remember the four parts technique that I said, right? So first you have to give the answer directly. Then you have to ask the question why. And afterwards, alternative or example. Right. So again, do you think newspapers are important? So first of all, I'll give my opinion. I'll say, well, in my opinion, newspapers are highly important. So this is what I'm doing here. I have just answered the question directly. The question was, do you think newspapers are important? I answered, well, in my opinion, newspapers are highly important. Now, I should ask the question why. The next sentence should be, because they provide us with valuable information about what's happening around the world. See, the second part, because they give us valuable information about what's happening around the world. See, now afterwards, if I keep asking the question why, the next sentence should be, not only that, they are a great source of knowledge about medicine, technology, education, and whatnot. Right? So this is the second why. Now after that, so I talked about, give an example or alternative. Now if you give an alternative, you might say, I think if newspapers didn't exist, the quality of news coverage would suffer a lot, because there would be less or fewer professional journalists. Right, so this is alternative. If newspaper didn't exist, the quality of news coverage would suffer a lot, because there would be fewer professional journalist. Finally, you can give an example. For example, we'd have to rely on unpaid bloggers who are often not that much trustworthy. So see, this is how we can expand our idea, expand our insight. For example, if I again give the full answer, what should be the full answer? Well, in my opinion, newspapers are highly important because they give us valuable information about what's happening around the world. And not only that, they're a vital source of knowledge about education, medicine, and technology, and whatnot. I think if newspapers didn't exist, we'd have to rely. The quality of news coverage would suffer a lot because there'd be fewer professional journalists. For example, in that situation, we'd have to rely on unpaid bloggers, who should have very negative impact on us because they are not often trustworthy, right? So this is how we answer our question. This is how we should try to answer portrait questions following this 4 segment technique. Remember that. I think this should be highly helpful for you if you want to get a good score in our speaking portrait.